We are officially recording. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the podcast Into the Mind, where we break down and analyze the characteristics, strategies, and stories of successful entrepreneurs, investors, and high achievers to learn from their mistakes and replicate their formulas for success. I'm your host, Marlon Johnson, former parkour athlete turned real estate investor and entrepreneur, and I'm on a mission to become a multimillionaire before 30 so that I can teach others how to do the same. Today, my guest is a gentleman that I had the pleasure of meeting while we were at a mastermind in Cancun, Mexico. While a few of us were sitting at lunch, he started getting into his story about how he got into real estate, the challenges he had to overcome to begin investing, and it inspired me, truthfully, because he was so genuine, he was so authentic that I knew I was like, I got to get him on the podcast. So today we're going to be talking about just what he's done, his story, where he came from, what he's working on today, where he's going, and we're going to figure out something interesting thing about these Ohio boys. That's why I've been calling them. It's just one on today, but I'll call them the Ohio boys. So help me in welcoming my guest, Tommy Harr. Yo, what up,
What's
Tommy?
going on, man? I appreciate having me on, man. It's my first podcast, like I said earlier, so excited. A little nervous, but excited, man.
Bro, yeah, I love it. You're doing something new, man. So, like, welcome to the show. You know how it is. It's going to be pretty conversational. But, yo, no joke. Like, you guys were rolling deep, by the way. When you came in to Ohio, I was just like, yo, he's from Ohio. He's from Ohio. He's from Ohio. She's from Ohio. Like, y'all roll deep, bro. Like, we're going to get into it because it's a really cool dynamic.
It is. It is cool.
You know, but before we jump into that and before we even like start jumping into real estate, I'm curious, like, can you share with everyone like who you were before real estate, like kind of where you're from and like almost like who you were coming up, like your childhood, if you will?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, my name is Tommy Harr, Tom Harr, in the business world. I pretty much just grew up playing sports. I'm from Pickerington, Ohio. If you ever heard of Pickerington, it's known for NBA players, NFL players, Karis LeVert in the NBA, a couple people. So grew up playing sports, huge family guy. I'm one of 5 kids. A lot of people don't know that. Basically just grew up playing sports and hanging out with friends, and my dad being an entrepreneur. So basically up till college, I played at the University of Dayton. I played soccer. Everything was about sports. Everything was about kind of just sports, have fun, do all that stuff. And then as life hits you, getting out of sports, what's the next step? So that's kind of when real estate came in. Because like I said, my dad's an entrepreneur, and that's kind of what he's been in from the time I was young. So that's the kind of the quick and dirty. So pretty much sports and family and friends, kind of the basic childhood.
Yeah, you know, there seems to be a common thread actually. Like as I sit and I've interviewed a lot of people, and a lot of the entrepreneurs actually have a background in sports. And I think that's one of the most important things because it gives you, there's a certain like mental resilience that you build.
Absolutely.
Being an athlete. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like I meet so many of like the entrepreneurs that were former athletes, especially the wrestlers. Like, sheesh.
Yeah, I mean, playing sports at a Division I level, I mean, whether it's soccer or cheerleading or whatever it is, I mean, you're held to a higher standard. You're trained to be where you're at all times, or if not, you're getting in trouble. Like you're just higher standard, you're accountable, and then you're relying on, at least as a team sport, other people to keep you in check. So that's been huge when it's come into my entrepreneurial journey of looking at it as it's a sport. Like everybody, we're on a team. We're all towards the greater good of this stuff, you know? So that's kind of, it's been a great merge. And I used to be like, man, why is my coach talking about this stuff? And like stuff that never was on the field. And now I'm getting into this stuff. I'm like, man, he was so right. And coach, if you're listening to this, I was definitely, you were right about a lot of things.
Yeah, I love hearing that, right? It's funny when the lessons start ringing true years later, but that's the purpose of planting those seeds.
Absolutely.
Right? So I'm curious, you had the sports background, you were going D1, like you were in D1 playing soccer. What essentially caused the shift? Like when did soccer end? And I know you said your father was an entrepreneur. When did like you start to pick up that torch, if you will?
Yeah. So, I mean, I always wanted to, like, everybody's got that story of, I wanted to go pro, I want to do this. So like I was always very good, but I was always very injury prone. So that's another thing that taught me a lot of life lessons as well, is dealing with injuries, dealing with that mental setback of not being able to be out there, or knowing you should be out there and you just can't because you're injured. So having a couple almost career-ending injuries in college, and waking up from surgeries and thinking it was a meniscus cleanup, and end up being a 10-month almost career-ending surgery, teaches you a lot of lessons. So to delve into that rabbit hole, I was on my sophomore year. I didn't tell my coach I was having surgery. I was, it was supposed to be a 4-week in and out over summer. I wake up from surgery. Guy tells me he fixed more than he could find in there, or there was more that he thought. And I ended up waking up to 6 months on crutches, another 4 months of rehab. So I had to tell my coach, basically them telling me I was a detriment to the program, stuff like that. And then ended up coming back my next junior year as a starter and won the Atlantic 10 championship with my teammates. So stuff like that will teach you great lessons. It's more mental than anything, man. It's just, how do you overcome those setbacks?
Yo, I absolutely freaking love that, because
Yeah.
like, especially what you said, because like I've experienced those sort of like injuries, right? From like, my time skateboarding and parkour, like I've experienced injuries. I've experienced doctors telling me like, yo, this is janked up, you can't do this, you shouldn't be doing this. And I just like was stubborn. Like I was like, I'm not listening to you. Like your opinion is not my, like, that's not a fact.
Right. Yeah.
Even your facts are now opinions to me, like, because you're telling me what I don't want to listen. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And there is something to be said about just setting your mind on, no, I'm making this happen.
And that's been directly into real estate. Like, and we'll get into that as we go further, but like, there was never a doubt in my mind that it wasn't going to happen. Like when I was injured, I was like, I'm getting back on that field. And when I wasn't getting deals, I was broke and all that stuff. Like, I'm going to be there. Like, it's just that unwavering faith of, man, like, I'm going to make this shit happen. Nobody's going to tell me different.
Bro, that's one thing I gotta say about you guys. Like, and like seriously,
it's that Midwest. It's that Midwest corn.
Yo, it's that Midwest. It's that Ohio.
Man.
Like, yo, you guys stood out to me. I was like, yo, they are freaking animals. When they put their, like, when you figure out what you want to do, you're like, no, like I am doing this. Matter of fact, I saw it when we were on the boat. When y'all are just like, yo, we're jumping off the top.
I'm jumping off this boat. Nobody's telling me differently, right?
And it's just like, yo, this is not the crowd that you tell it can't be done. You can't tell these people like, nah, you can't do this. It's not like, this is the wrong crowd to tell it to.
No.
You know, and that's amazing because it translates into business big time.
100%.
That's a leader right there. That's a leadership role. That's a leadership trait. So you finish up, you get back into soccer after what should have been a career-ending injury. And then as you begin to wrap up that chapter of your life, what was that transition like? Was it like an initial, all right, cool, like soccer's over, let me just make a smooth transition to entrepreneurship, to real estate? Was there like a lag time in between? Was it, hey, I actually want to go to the majors?
Nope. So I mean, the injuries was like, I'm done, it's over. A lot of my friends are still trying to make, it's like at some point, man, you got to give it up. So I took all that energy, and my dad, like I said, has always been an entrepreneur. So from the time I was 10, can remember, he has a home inspection company, and he was also doing property preservation. So property preservation for quick is, call it 08, 09, is when the banks were subbing out to companies to board the houses up, mow the lawns, clean the houses out, winterize the houses, all that stuff. And that's what I grew up in. So from the time I was 12, I was out mowing these lawns and doing trashing out these nasty houses all around Columbus. And I always told my dad when I was done with school, I didn't really know what he did other than that, but I was going to be his right-hand man. So oldest boy of 5 kids. That's kind of what I thought my role had to be. So that was what I did. And right away I jumped in, and that property preservation business had fizzled over the years because less and less foreclosures. So now it was home inspections. I didn't know a damn thing about a house. I didn't know anything other than trashing them out. So he's walking me through houses. He's like, this is plumbing, this electrical. I'm like, I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. So really learning construction from the ground up, and taking a business where it was just him to like, what do I do with it? I'm the young guy now. And I got to create something out of this. I'm going to do what I can to really kind of explode this into whatever it's going to turn into. Right. So that was me grabbing that business, and till now I probably 5X the revenue and the business. My little brother works for us. We got 2 more inspectors. But in that meantime, I gotten introduced to real estate investing. So my uncle called me right before graduating college, probably like, I think it was like the day or two before. He lives in Chicago. He asked me if I wanted to move to Chicago and invest in real estate. I was studying finance and entrepreneurship. So perfect match, right?
Yeah.
Um, didn't think much about it. I said, I don't know anything about that. I'm going back to work with my pops, get out of here. So as I started to inspect a little bit more, we were doing draw inspections for hard money companies. So your big time companies, they were using us as their subcontractor. So I was seeing people renovate houses over and over again in Columbus, all around. We were their boots on the ground. So I'm sitting there like, I'm trying to talk to all these people and figure out what the hell's going on. And this is 3, 4, 5 years ago when Columbus was starting to explode, before a lot of people knew. And these were all areas that we used to mow lawns in. I'm like, why are people mowing? I'm talking to my dad, I'm like, why are there people buying these houses where they're boarded up all next to them? And he's like, man, I don't know. So I just kept asking those questions, and ended up buying my first flip with my uncle probably 6 months after that.
Huh. So that's crazy,
Yeah.
right? Because people, I'm actually happy like we're going down this route with the story, right? Because what's interesting is you were essentially working on these homes. So you were like in and around these houses in multiple ways, boarding them
Yep.
up, maintaining them, then even doing inspections for other investors, because you're doing the inspections for the hard money and the investors
Yep.
are the ones getting the hard money. So essentially
Yep.
you're doing the inspections for the investor.
Yep.
So you're literally like your hands are on the property and
Yep.
you're touching it, feeling it, seeing it. However, you still weren't quite sure what was going on.
Yep.
As far as I think that's important to recognize, because
Yeah.
there's still a lot of people that always feel like, man, but like everyone already sees the opportunity. They already see the house. Like the bank already knows this is a deal. The realtor knows this is the deal. The neighbor knows this is a deal. But here you were like literally like in and around the
In the
houses,
house. Yeah.
and you didn't even know it was a deal yet.
Yeah.
So like I want people to have like that mental shift of
Yeah.
recognizing, it's not as saturated as we think. Like, although yes, there are going to be people in this industry, right? There's still people that are in the industry, but they don't see it the
Yeah.
same way you see it, the way you're trained to see it, the way you have to educate yourself to see it.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you start like getting educated.
Yeah.
Now.
So
Curious.
that was the biggest part. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off at all, but I started to just my uncle put me on to Bigger Pockets. So he's like, hey man, read Rich Dad Poor Dad, listen to Bigger Pockets. So driving around as an inspector all day, going house to house to house to house to house, I got Bigger Pockets on 1.5x. So I'm listening to everything, and you don't know what you don't know, right? So I start hearing about rental property, because everybody's already heard of flipping and rentals, and then they say wholesaling. I'm like, what in the hell are they talking about, wholesaling? And like figuring out that you could be broke and make money, I was instantly turned on, because I was making 35 grand a year on paper working for my dad, and kind of just was like, man, I want to do all this stuff. So 6 months later, whatever that timeline may be, bought my first flip with my uncle. So I went back to my uncle and was like, hey, let's do it in Columbus. He agreed. And then that's when I flipped my first property. And it's the one I like to say was the best and the worst. We lost 100 grand on that one. Ooh. So whenever I'm in a room, that's usually the one that wins. So I remember sitting in the back of some meetups a couple of years back. They're like, how many people have lost money? And I'm sitting there like, me. How many have lost over 50? And everybody's hands are down, mine's up, 75 up. And everybody looks at me. And it was my buddy Austin Rutherford. He was just on your show. It's his meetup. And he goes, what? And then I was like, yeah. And so, but I mean, it's just lessons and all that stuff comes from it, and you just build on it,
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's unpack that for a minute, because I mean, there's somebody who's like hasn't ever invested right now listening to this.
Yeah.
Right. And like their butt cheeks literally just like squeezed up. They're like, yo, 100K? That's a lot of money.
And in Ohio, that's a lot too. It's like, man, you buy houses for 100K. So how do you lose 100K? So
it's a lot.
Yeah,
so like, what happened there?
So I mean, we bought a house. It was a foreclosure. It was right in a very, very rich neighborhood of Columbus called Bexley, for $425,000. Our budget was like 150. Long story short, so the guy that put me onto the house was a contractor that I met through those draw inspections. So the worlds are now meshing, right? Mm-hmm. So he puts me onto it, so I'm obligated now to give him the job. So he says he's a GC. He's not really a GC, doing all the work himself. So I was living in this house at the time, by the way. I was living in the flip. It was a 6-bedroom mini mansion, like 4,000 square foot. I was bouncing room to room, no hot water, the whole shebang on this house, and just didn't manage him well. Basically, like that's an outlier of price point in Ohio. Like anything, we thought we were going to sell for 800,000. We ended up selling for 700. We held it for 2 years. Holding costs ate us alive. The house was choppy. It sat on a main road. So basically a whole gambit of like the mess ups that you learn over time. I just all hit at once. Like trusted my contractor for too long, didn't fire him, overshot my ARV, held the property for too long. Right. So then, I mean, that all together right there, it wasn't all of my money. It was very little of my own money, but I spent 2 years of my time and effort in that house, living in it. And then also the relationship with pretty much my family and my uncle at the same time. Right. So, very, 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 sad, but it taught me everything I know to really, it's like, doesn't get much worse than that. Right.
Right.
So it shot me ahead. I was like, man, it doesn't get worse. And at the same time, I was still listening to Bigger Pockets. I was like, man, I hear too many success stories. I am not letting this take me down. There's no fucking way. Right. So
yeah, I mean, I love that. Right. Cause here, I want to like emphasize that point, right? Because a lot of times what I see happen is like people make a mistake, people have a loss, they get out of real estate. Real estate doesn't work. Real estate's dangerous. Real estate's bad. Like, listen, at some point, no matter who we are, who you are, how much training, education, any of it you get, you are going to make mistakes, right? It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You just happen to do yours at the beginning. However, what I love is you used it as an opportunity. Like, it was like a blessing for you where you're like, all right, cool. Like, it literally can't get any lower than this. It can't get any worse than this. I can only go up from here as long as I continue. Right. So I am curious, right? Because this is like the part now that, you know, obviously this is already in the past, right? You've moved on since. You do flips. I mean, I'm on your IG. I'm watching you put out projects. Like, you still have your inspection business. You still got your investing business going. Both doing well. However, when you were in the thick of it, like when it was like actually occurring, this is why I want to dive into like almost like what was going on in your mind? Like, what was the feeling like? Because there's somebody out there right now listening to this that's in the thick of their own situation right now. And they're maybe like an inch away from just stopping. So I'm like curious to know, like, if you're able to recall what it felt like just like being in the heart of that storm.
Yes. I mean, like, it's about the visualization stuff, right? You listen to all these success stories and you want to implement that stuff into your life. Right. So I knew where I wanted to be. I just knew it wasn't there yet. It wasn't my time yet. So whether it's putting in your work, taking your bumps, your bruises, like, it will pass. And I remember outside ripping vines off the house and sanding down floors and all that stuff. I'm like, I hate this. It sucks. But I knew that I was going to get through it, and I was going to use this as fuel to like literally just explode, man. Because I knew I had so much potential in me. Whether or not not everybody sees it, and that's not meant to be. But like, I knew I was going to be where I'm at right now back then. So it was just in my head saying that, like, you got to keep going, man. There's no quitting. We don't quit. And that goes back to the injury stuff. Like, you could quit any day on the injury, but like, do you want to go play soccer again? Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Right. And it's like, again, like, because I want to hear that be reiterated. Because again, like, the challenge is like, after you've made it through the storm, like, people look at you now and they're like, oh yeah, like, but of course you got it all figured out. Like, you're an inspector, you already know how to look at houses, and you do this, and you're friends with Austin, and you guys travel around and you do deals together. So I want them to understand there was a time when you didn't have the information, where you didn't have the resources. However, the belief you had in yourself did exist, and that had to come before the reality caught up.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, like, that's where it starts. I mean, there was times when after that, like, I didn't jump into a bunch of deals. Like, I still took another 6 months to get my first rental. And I'm sitting on my bed after sending a bunch of marketing and being like, man, when is it going to happen? I hear it happening all the time in these podcasts, but when the hell does it happen? But you just don't quit. And you got to make the connections too. So like I said earlier with the inspecting company, I knew I wanted to wholesale. I knew I wanted to flip, but I knew that there were guys doing it better than me. And I would go to Austin's meetups. I would go to other people's meetups, and I would be in the market. I would go network, and I would never not show up. So, and then I used the inspecting. I saw that wholesalers took terrible pictures. So wholesalers were showing me 30, in Ohio, you got basements, right? So they're sending me 30 pictures. You got to make a sight unseen offer. This is before I was really buying. So I went up to Austin at the end of one of his meetups. I said, hey man, I can offer you a better product and a report than what you're giving on your wholesale deals. So I called it my investor inspection. I then met every wholesaler, I'm now giving them 150 pictures on their wholesale deals and giving them a 1-page report. And I was giving them for $75. So giving them a high level report, basically to get in with them and just be like, hey, like, this is who I am. This is what I'm going to offer you. And I'm going to oversell my product. And that got me in with every single big time investor in Columbus. So just finding your niche and just drilling into it. And now I'm best friends with literally the biggest investors in Columbus, and they're helping me with my business.
Yo, let's go. And again, man, you're making me excited right now because you're hitting on so many things which need to be highlighted, which is you came in, first off, again, the belief in yourself was there, but then now the action, right? Because sometimes people are like, but I do believe in myself. It's like something I've been asking people a lot recently. It's like, yo, how do you prove that you have faith? Right? Like if I got faith that the parachute's going to open after I jump off the cliff, how do I prove it?
Right.
I got to jump off the cliff, right? There's no other way to prove it. So you prove that you had faith in yourself by offering this service, offering it at a freaking incredible rate, like for what you're giving. Cause I mean, I look at the pictures some wholesalers send me and like, I sometimes like want to reach through my computer and punch them in the face because I'm like, how am I supposed to make a decision off of this?
Sight unseen. I can't make that offer.
Yeah. So. And it's like, and clearly this kid can't comp that sent me the deal, or this grown adult can't comp, whoever sent me the deal. Comes like your ARV is crazy off, but like your pictures aren't doing it any justification. And then on top of that, you actually add an inspection report. So you're going above and beyond. So you're putting in the work, right? You're not hiding from the work. You're actually charging into the work and providing that out to others and fostering these relationships that now years later are still feeding back into you. This is actually building up your business today still.
Yeah. And I mean, I still today do those. The price is a little higher now, but people like dispo people around Columbus, they said they won't sell their deals unless my company's reports on it. So like I did it for 2 reasons. I wanted to get in with people that I wanted to get in with. And I also wanted to buy wholesale deals. So what better way to buy wholesale deals than inspecting every single one, right? So I was inspecting every wholesaler's deal, and then I would just be like, hey, like, do you mind if I give you a good price? You can send it to me first and let me look at it. I didn't buy one from a wholesaler doing that for another year or 2, but I ended up buying a deal from it. So it just all came to fruition over time. But I mean, it took time. It took a lot of time, really. But it worked exactly kind of how I planned it.
Man, again, like that is one more thing that people need to listen to, right? It took time. And that's the thing where I know we live in an instant gratification kind of society, especially, you had a challenge there, right? Like your first deal lost you, put you in the red 100K. So if anything, you're even less patient than the person starting at 0, trying to take off. You're like digging out of a hole, and you stayed consistent. You kept on pulling out of the hole to the point where you are where you are now. So I'm curious to know, as you started to establish yourself, as you start to establish a name, right? And you're starting to see that this thing actually works. What started to, like, I'm curious, your friend group, right? Your interactions, like who did you become? Were you still hanging out with your same friends? Were you changing up the circle?
Yeah. So
what was that looking like?
I'm lucky enough to have a group of like 5 or 6, maybe even 10, 2 separate groups of hometown buddies. Cut one of them played in the NFL, very high level. And then the other ones are just we text every day. So like it's been since high school, we text every day. So my friend group is great. They support me. And then same with my family. So that's always been great. But moving into I wanted to get around people that were doing what I wanted to do. Right. So with that, it's either join a mastermind or show them you actually like are for real about this stuff. So at the same time of doing all that, I bought my first house hack. I was trying to buy rentals. So I was trying to model everybody that I liked business. So Austin Rutherford, for example, Terry Summers, for example, rentals, flipping, wholesaling. So I wanted to merge their 2 models. So model your business off of somebody you admire. And basically, like I remember sitting out in front of I had like 8 units. I had like $2,000 in my account, and Austin posted I think Instagram saying, hey, we're going to this mastermind out in Cabo. Last call, you're gonna get a discount. And I immediately hit him back and I was like, I'm in. I'm tired of seeing like these people jump off these boats and hang out in the sun and do this shit, I need to see what I need to know what conversations are going on around that pool, man. Like I need to know. I'm tired of sitting around and thinking about it. So made the jump, I mean, it's all been the whole entrepreneurship journey. It's just spending your last bit of money in your account just to do something else, right? So that was my last bit of money, and I was like, fuck it, man, I'm going. And I gotta see. And that's kind of when you invest in yourself, right? So that's when, and I remember sitting around the pool, my buddy named Milan was like, man, I don't know what it is about these masterminds. You come home after and your life just starts to blow up, man. I don't know what it is. Come back, boom, starts to go crazy.
Yo, what, bro? I'm like laughing because I'm reminiscing on like I know exactly what you mean. Like the very first time I got into an airplane and flew out here to Arizona, and I was just like, I gotta go meet these people. Like I was like, I gotta go meet. Like I messaged Pace and I was like, bro, like, I need to come out there because I'm brand new to real estate. I haven't done a deal yet. I'm learning. I'm being educated. I gotta see that this is freaking real because I'm watching it through the internet and I'm like, yo, I still don't know if I trust you all. It's the middle of COVID. The world just shut down. I can't go and see anybody in person to see if they're actually doing what they say they're doing. Right. I'm flying to Arizona. I'm coming to your office. I gotta see it. Yeah. I got to see it, man. Like I was like, holy crap, this is real. And when I got home, I'm talking like months, bro. I was going 8 months, nothing was turning over, no conversations, nothing. I get home within like about 2 weeks. I get my first deal. My first deal is 2 properties. One's a subject to, the other's a cash deal. And I'm just like, what the hell was that?
It's something in the universe, bro. And that's what my friend said. I remember exactly where I was. He's like, man, I can't tell you what it is, but you're going to go home and your life and business are going to explode. And it did 100%.
Yo, I call it the campfire effect now. Like I refer to it as the campfire effect, but it's true. Cause even like after we left Cancun, like I watched traction in my business pick up again. Like every time I go and I connect, and I remembered, and this is kind of what I want to dive into now, because this is like you and the Ohio fam, and like you guys do this relatively regularly. When I was out there in Cancun, when we're all at the Tab retreat and we're masterminding for a week, you know, it wasn't just you by yourself. Like, yes, you came out there, but so did your network, right? And it wasn't necessarily that you all worked together as one business, as one LLC. You're all independent. You all do your own thing. However, you guys squad up in such a dope way. Like, yo, this is the way, like, this is what a friend group should look like. It's, I remember I was just like, I asked you guys, I said, yo, how often do you all do this? Me thinking your answer is going to be like, yeah, we probably do this like once a month, not once a month, once a year, you know, like, or once every other year. You guys are like, yo, we probably do this like maybe like 3-4 weeks. Like we squat up pretty hard. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, I mean, like, why not do this stuff regularly with your friends and make a mastermind out of it? Like, it doesn't have to be a formal mastermind, but like, we went to Egypt. My office I'm sitting in right now, I'm up in the attic space. The biggest wholesaler in Columbus he owns the building. He's downstairs. So like, he got a group of 30 of us to go to Egypt in like April, and we just were in Egypt, hanging out the pyramids, talking about business, talking about life, and also experiencing some of the coolest stuff in the world. So like, why not just like make a lot of money together and go have fun together, right? So that's kind of our mantra. So have a lot of fun, but also like help each other out, right? It's a really cool dynamic we got going on over here.
Man, I love it. And I saw just like how, because you all did that, there was a level of like trust and communication, and there was this energy that existed that it could be felt. Like it just like you guys walked into the room and there was like this sort of chemistry. And I was just like, what a freaking awesome way to do business. What a more sustainable way to do business, because your business is now feeding you energetically, because the wholesale business can absolutely turn into a grind pretty quick. Right?
Absolutely.
Like, it can burn people out. It does. In fact, it burns most people out. Most people get into the business and don't stay past 6 months. Right.
Absolutely.
I think when I look, I'm like, why don't they do this? They haven't developed a community around it. So
I mean,
amazing way.
We're now throwing a meetup in Columbus with 3 or 4 of our friends that are in a mastermind together, and we're hosting a probably 200 plus meetup event where we buy out a bar, we buy a food truck, we buy out the bar, and everybody comes and drinks and eats for free, and everybody in the community comes together and just talks real estate, sees each other, because COVID's still, right? Like we're still not all hanging out together. So like, why not get everybody together and just like be the reason why everybody does that. So it's kind of just like maybe it's a Midwest thing. I don't know. But then it's also like it's a big enough market to where you don't have to play scared and play against each other. There's enough for everybody to eat. Like if I'm doing 10 contracts a month, I know my buddy, if he's doing the same amount of work, he can do the same. So, and also I've had on multiple occasions where like we're working a contract and somebody I know is working the same person. And most people would pin each other against each other, right? But we'll just come together. We'll text and say, hey, seller said she's talking to you. Let's work together. Let's get this deal done together. Let's both get paid. Like that is amazing. I've had that happen on multiple occasions.
Yo, I freaking love that, right? Because dude, this is like the energy that I found out here in Arizona. This is why I came out to AZ, because in New York, you don't get this same kind of energy. It's like it's so cutthroat. I'm like, guys, like we're only running the numbers up on ourselves. Like we are literally bidding against ourselves right now.
Absolutely.
This is stupid. And recognizing what I love is the energy that you had, right? That all of you have is it's still competitive energy. It's still like, yo, we're getting this done. Like you're not laying down for people, which is like almost why like it caught me off guard that you were able to still work get it together so well, because I was like, yo, you guys almost low key have like a New York type energy where it's like, yo, like if you smell blood in the water, like,
I mean, we're in your face. I mean, like we're coming there. You're like, what? You come in the room, hey, I'm Tom from Ohio, and like 10 people behind you are like, what? Why are you guys from Ohio? Why are you guys all here? And we're all running 6-figure minimum 7-figure businesses. So it's like, how does that happen? I don't know. Working together is part of it for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, you all do it in such a great way where I'm like, yo, this needs to be modeled. And like we see it, like again, like Arizona, like that's the culture, right? It's being taught squat up. Some other markets, because I do deals in multiple markets. Some other markets, like they don't have that mentality. They can't comprehend the idea of squatting up. And I'm like, yo, you guys are shooting yourself in the foot. You're leaving money on the table. You're not solving the seller's problems, and you're making it harder to come together as a community. It's just killing your own marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's freaking rad, man. So I'm curious now, like what is, that was you entering into business, that was some of the things that you had to go through. What does business look like for you nowadays? Like where would you say you are now?
Yes. I mean, the inspection company, it's me, my dad, my brother, two inspectors, a VA. That one, we probably do about $500,000 revenue. And that one's great, but I'm kind of stepping away from that as my investing world has kind of blown up. So at the same time I was inspecting every day, I met my business partner actually through a hard money draw. So once again, my lives are coming together again. So our buddy, who is now one of my really good friends, was hungover 20 minutes late to this inspection. So it gave us 20 minutes to shoot the shit at this house, which now has been a godsend. It's like, man, if that didn't happen, I don't know what would happen. So I had wholesaled probably 10 deals, flipped like 3 or 4 houses within that two-year time period from then. And then over the last 2 years of me and my partner, Andy, coming together, we've done a little over $1 million in revenue and profit, took down about 40 rentals, done probably just about 100 wholesale deals. And we have a team of 6 or 7 people in the office now. So we're running a property management company basically for our properties. So I have 15 units in that by myself. Andy has about 15 units by himself. And then we have about 40 to 45 together. So we're managing all those. And then we've got a project management wing. And then we got 2 acquisition guys on the other side of the office. So every part of the business kind of funnels into each other.
Yo, that's insane, right? Like that's straight up sick, right? Because you start to see this all stems back from what you were originally doing too. Like it all comes back and it layers and layers and layers on top of itself. And this is where that persistence kicks in of knowing like, hey, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah. And then also like, I mean, if you don't eat shit and you don't know what it's like to like be broke for 2-3 years, whatever that is, maybe it's shorter, maybe it's longer, but you're definitely not gonna to feel gracious when you're at this point. Like even if I'm up here cash poor, like, cause we got 20 projects going on right now. And I'm like, man, what is going on? But like, I'm sitting up here like, man, I did exactly what I said I was going to do to myself 3 years ago. Like I made this promise to myself that I will be here and I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it while I'm here, even if times do get hard. Everything comes with its own problems, right? So taking that and running with it.
Bro, that's wisdom right there. Because it's funny. Earlier, it was last week, I was talking about this where I was explaining to like my group that, you've got to be good with finding joy in the middle of it, right? Sometimes like we're
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna be and this is actually a part of what we were talking about. Like this is why I was running a little late today. We were talking
Yeah.
about this at lunch with just like a good buddy of mine, where we are talking about you have to. It is absolutely mandatory that you learn to find joy in the middle
Yeah.
of it, like in the
Yep.
suck of it, what most
Yep.
would consider to suck, because that thing is exactly what's molding you into the thing you say
Absolutely.
you want to become. So you've
Yeah.
got to be willing to actually endure through that, and not just endure it with like a negative, like, damn, woe is me type situation, but like, how can you figure out how to like actually start being like, you know what? I'm grateful for this because this is what I asked for.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, like I said, everything comes with its own problems, right? So I mean, you Ed Milet said it perfectly, and it's resonated with me. You want to be blissfully dissatisfied. So you want to be happy with where you're at, but dissatisfied, you want more, or you put yourself in this position, you can get yourself out of it. So I think about those things a lot, because I mean, as an entrepreneur, when is enough? And when is it like you're just adding new problems to yourself? So it's cool. I enjoy it. And I mean, now I got people that I'm feeding and helping them reach the goals in their lives. So it's a pretty cool transition.
Right. It's cool to know you give back. And what's even more cool to know, and like I'm happy, you were able to say this, right? Where, you're like, hey, we've done a pretty good amount, right? We've got a sizable portfolio in most people's eyes, like, dang, like over 40, that's killing it, that's crushing it. And you're
Yeah.
able to say there's still moments where you can be cash poor, you still
Yeah.
have everything. Cause I'm experiencing that in my own business right now where we've got flips going on and I've got rentals and I got doors and I'm like, cool, like shit, like we gotta sit tight until everything finishes
Yeah.
turning around,
Yeah.
because we're still in the middle of building, we're still in the process
Yeah.
of the money's going back in, and people need to understand that there's different levels, different devils, like new struggles
Yeah.
pop up with everything.
Yeah. It takes a certain level of risk, man. I mean, like there's I mean, if you run it, say 20 projects, we have got 20 projects out right now. If you under lend 10 grand on each, that's 200 grand, right? So if you go over rehab on each one, like, where's that 200 grand going to come from? So, I mean, you get cash tight sometimes, you got to figure it out. But I mean, like, it's the same thing in the beginning. Like, you are going, as long as you know in your head you're going to figure it out, you will find a way. That's what entrepreneurship is, man. Like, you got to scrap. And that's what a lot of people don't make sexy about entrepreneurship, and kind of what I've kind of figured out what I want to do with my why and maybe social media. Like, I want to push to show that $40,000 a year home inspector or plumber or whatever that may be, with a little bit of mindset shift, they can own 10, 20, 30, 40 rentals or start their own business. Like, some like blue collar can really be sexy, like it doesn't have to be made. Like, plumbers make more than most people I know right now in the regular world. So why not make that sexy, right?
Bro, that would actually be insane. I think that would actually, one, that would provide a lot of value for people.
Yeah.
And then that would actually tap into a niche where I agree with you. Like, there are some people out there where it's like they're W-2, like they want to invest and they think they have to do this or that. It's like, no,
Yeah.
you could do this and that. Like, I have people all the time that are reaching out to me asking, like, yo, should I quit my job? I want to get into real estate. I'm like, bro, no. Like,
No.
I don't get it twisted. Like, my job let go of me because of COVID. Like, I was straight up like the world. I was a parkour coach, man. Like, the
Yeah.
world shut
Yeah.
down. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't, in New York, man. I couldn't teach anyone. I couldn't coach anyone. I can't do
Yeah.
parkour over Zoom. Like, it
Yeah.
don't work that way.
Right.
So it's
Right.
just like that was like go. So I didn't have a choice in the matter.
Yeah.
But I'm like, there's so many benefits to still having a stable income, to having
Yeah.
a W-2. You go get loans. You go do this. You can funnel money into your
It's
marketing. Like,
amazing.
there's so
Yeah.
many things you could do. You have a longer runway to let the plane take off.
Yeah.
It's like, so to be able to highlight that, I don't think there's many people doing that at
No.
all. They almost
No, I mean,
denounce the other side.
yeah, a lot of it's unrelatable, right? Like, here's how I bought my 10th rental. Like, here's how I bought 3 houses today. Like, how about teach somebody about an interest rate or something, like little things that a lot of people aren't taught, right? So really kind of just delving into, I mean, like you said, use your W-2, 40 grand, and realizing that you can buy. I mean, I house hacked 2 houses off my $40,000 W-2, right? So that's 4 doors. That's 4 cash flowing doors. So just teaching like that stuff, and that stuff can change your life. So just learning little mindset tweaks and learning how to cheat the system, right?
Yo, it's tremendous. So speaking of mindset, right? Of course, your mind had to come from a different place, right? You came from the sports background, although entrepreneurship was there. Did you find that as you're on this journey, you still had to do work on your mindset, or were you fortunate enough where you felt like, hey, it actually was already set for me.
No, I mean, you got to work on that. I work on it almost every day still. I mean, self-doubt is still in your head every day, almost every day. I mean, you got to fight through it. I mean, I don't like getting out of the bed in the morning. You have to get out of bed. Like, it's just, it's just a bunch of those things of like, I always think of, your bitch voice. That's what
Yep.
was Andy
And
Frisella calls it, your bitch voice.
yep.
And I'm always like, don't let your bitch voice win. Every time it's like, do not let your bitch voice win. If I throw my dish in the sink, don't let your bitch voice win. Put it in the dishwasher. Just little things to trick yourself to actually do the extra thing. And that's kind of how I was raised too. Like, you gotta sweep the carpet every day. It was very like strict but loving, an awesome family. But like, chores were non-negotiable. You got your Xbox taken if you didn't. So all that stuff is now leading into, stuff that transfers right into like adulthood and life, and treating your spouse and whoever that may be down the line, and business for sure, treating your people right.
Right. And it's funny because, again, this was a conversation that we were having a little bit during lunch, because I was sitting down with a couple of investors out here, and we were having this talk, basically just saying there is a certain amount of, you have to be able to get yourself to do it, even if you don't want to do it. Right.
Yeah.
Like, there's got to be a certain level of discipline where, your passion might be this, and this might be where you find all your joy and all your love. However, there's a certain aspect of, if you want it, you have to choose to do some of the things you don't want to do.
No doubt.
It's a choice, right? And reframing it to understand it's a choice that you get to make. And that's how you can start to find passion again, in the sense of, you know what, I enjoy having the choice. I enjoy being able to make that choice of my own free will, of my own accord.
Yeah, absolutely. It's your choice every day. And some days you're going to win them, sometimes you're not. I mean, you can't win them all, but as long as you keep getting up and fighting. It's like the injury thing, man. If I don't go to the training room one day to get my leg right, I better be hitting the next 6. But you can miss days, but you gotta make sure you get up and you never stop.
Nice. So that's good to know. I'm happy people are able to hear that. It's something that you said, like, it's a daily thing. It's not like you worked it out. Like, you're not like, yo, yeah, I did this one mindset course like 2 years ago. Freaking, they took me into the Himalayas. We had some peyote and ayahuasca, and now we're good.
Also,
man.
like, masterminds too, man. Like, if you pay the money to be in a mastermind, you're damn well going to show up to that weekly. Like, paid a pretty penny to be in a weekly mastermind where we have calls, accountability calls. Like, if you pay tens of $1,000s to for that, you better show up. So it's just having other people push you. And then, I mean, I want to retire my parents. I want to do some pretty cool things. So, I mean, it's like Grant Cardone. I forget the exact thing, but for a long time in the 10X rule, I read it, and he was like, this is your duty, your obligation, and something else. And that was what I thought about right when I woke up and I got my ass out of bed. Like, I'm obligated to get up and change my family tree. I'm obligated to get up and make something happen. My dad told me one time, like, I didn't send you to college to come back and do exactly what I've done. I expect you to do better and greater than what I've done. So that was like, okay, boom. I decided that, and I could inspect 1,000 more houses a year for him, and that is not going to retire him. So if I buy 100 houses as rentals, that might retire my parents. So it's changing your thought process and change your mindset, and hopefully changing your family tree after that.
Yo, hopefully y'all are listening to this. Like, I wanted to make sure this is resonating, because this is valuable. Like, this sort of conversation is the conversation that I wish I had growing up, that I wish somebody was just like speaking to me like this. And it did not come. I'm lucky that I bumped into it, that I wandered into it. However, so if you're listening to this right now, like, you are ahead of the curve, even being a part of this conversation.
For sure.
So, Tom, I want to know, right, and I'm going to be respectful of your time. I want to know from, where you're at now, do you like start to project out into the future? Like, do you have like a 1-year plan, a 2-year plan, a 5-year plan? Like, where do you kind of see yourself going as time continues?
Yeah, I mean, I get kind of bad at that. It's always a moving target being an entrepreneur, right? But I mean, I want to collect a lot of rentals. 100's always that arbitrary number. It's like that 100,000 or a million until you hit it and you're like, oh, that meant nothing. So that's what it is right now. I want 100 rentals. I want to host a bunch of masterminds or events in Columbus for people. I want to take my family on fully paid vacations. I want to treat my girl right. It's really kind of just like living in the now, but always keeping on the gas. Like keep projecting your business up, but at the same time, stay grounded, stay level, still be the same person. You can't let money or the outside forces change you at all, right? So be the same person, love my people, give back to my people, and do more of this stuff. I wanna kind of share my story and dig in with people like you that are awesome to talk to and really give back to communities, right?
Bro, I freaking love that, man. And like what's cool about it is when you say that, like I always get excited when someone starts like kind of projecting the future of like what they see for themselves. And I can
Yeah,
begin to see it for them easily as well, because
yeah,
that means your actions are in alignment with what you're saying as well. Because I can see
yeah,
through your actions. I was like, all right, he is building, he is all gas, but at the same time, you're a very present dude. Like when we were in Cancun, like you were there, like you were
yeah,
conscious, you were intentional,
yeah,
like intentful.
yeah,
Like that's why like I enjoyed connecting with you. I was like, yo,
yeah.
this dude is a real, like he's genuine. And it's like that's cool, man. People that get to meet
I
you in
appreciate
person,
that.
like they are lucky individuals.
I
Seriously.
appreciate that. I
Yo, of
appreciate that.
course. So check it out. I have these two questions that I always like to ask people like around the end of the show. And
Yeah,
they're two of my favorites. One, I'm a big reader. Like I'm
yeah,
constantly reading a new book, listening to it on Audible, finding it on YouTube, downloading the PDF. I'm always putting new information into my mind. I know earlier
yeah,
you said you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is an absolute staple. Even if people
yeah.
are going to invest in real estate, I think they should read that book
Everybody,
as well as like the
everybody, for
cash flow
sure.
quadrant, just to
Yeah,
get an understanding of
yeah.
that left side, right side of the quadrant. So aside from those two books, can you name at least two other books that have been total paradigm shifts for you that you picked them up and you never quite went back to being the same again since?
Yeah, so I mean, the first one, I would like to say probably 10x Rule by Grant Cardone. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. I mean, that one is just like teach yourself to you're the man, right? You got to be the man, and you got to think way bigger. So like whatever you think you're doing, you got to 10x it. You got to think bigger. You got to do bigger because I mean, your family's not going to change, your tree's not going to change unless you do it, right? So that was a huge one. And then I'd have to think about the other. The first one that comes to mind is going to be "Can't Hurt Me" by David Goggins. That book is just so good, and it's just like it's about that mental hurdle, right?
Nope.
Whenever you think you're done, you still got 60% more in the tank. So whenever you think that you can't do it or you're about to quit, know that you can't give up on yourself first of all, and then you have way more to give than what your brain's telling you. So your brain is tricking you to stop, but you can't. So those two books have just been absolutely life changing.
Yo, I love it because I've read both of those books as well. And like, I here's something funny, right? I actually used to not like Grant Cardone, right? And I know
Yeah,
a lot of people don't like him.
love or hate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like they get this image of who he is and they just totally judge him. But then when you take time to read the book and you understand where he's coming from, I actually became a huge fan of him because I
huge fan.
understood where his thought process was coming from. I understood like, yo, this guy is very intentional about providing for
Yeah,
his family and his community. And he's
yeah,
basically saying, like, look, if you're not going to help, if you're not going to be a part of the solution, get out of my way. I'm not going to feel bad about
yeah,
continuing to move forward. And
yeah,
I was just like, I was blown away. And he really does do a
yeah,
lot of good.
yeah,
So I love that, man.
yeah. It's I mean, he just has a lot of ideas. I mean, just 10x your life, man. I mean, you can do so much, and everybody has that those outside forces growing up. So he's like, when you're a baby, you're free and you do whatever you want. So like those outside forces that project negativity and downfulness and like you can't do this. Just eliminate all that and just fucking go for it, man. Like that's what real estate is. I mean, real estate investing to me is that. Like nobody in my family has ever done this. My mom thought I was crazy. She told me to be careful. And then I read 10x Rule and I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. I'm going for it. And now my mom's a realtor. She sells all my houses while being a full-time teacher. My dad, I helped him buy 5 rental properties 2 years ago, helped him accumulate $500,000 in equity. Just crazy shit that I never thought was possible. And then and it's just the conversations get different, right? So like if you're that one person in your family that does it changes a little bit, right? And that's kind of what I keep seeking.
Yo, let's go. It really is crazy too. Like when you start realizing, like, yo, like I'm actually having an impact, like you're
Yeah,
actually changing things where it's like, yo, this is insane. Like you realize you're becoming a leader. You already are a
yeah,
leader, but you're realizing that.
yeah,
So that's insane. So here's the final question I got for you. And this one is by far my favorite question to ask people. I want you to imagine that tomorrow morning you wake up, and as you're waking up, you are just like you're blinking into consciousness, and like you don't remember anything. Like you don't
Yeah.
remember the soccer, you don't remember the first deal, you don't remember any of the bigger pockets, you don't remember the books, the friends, the trips, nothing. It is all gone, every ounce of it. Now you're
Yeah.
not freaking out. It's not a Saw movie. You're not scared for your life. You're just in this calm state, and you start to have a thought. That thought comes to you. It's the very first thought that comes in. You don't question it. You just accept it as fact. It's reality. It's true. And you just begin to build upon that thought, that very first thought as a foundation. What would you want ideally for that first thought to be?
Yes, I mean that's a good question, and I think it would probably go back to everything I kind of rest my laurels on is, I mean, if you have your intentions straight and you just outwork everybody, nobody can stop you, right? So that's what one thing my dad taught me is I would see him wake up at 4 a.m., outwork your opponent and just work, but also have that the intention in front of it, and you're going to be amazing in all aspects of your life.
Bro, you would get along with Pace Morby. You and him would get along freaking like best friends, because that's his like mantra. Like his whole thing is
Yeah.
like chop wood, carry water.
Yeah.
Like at the
No,
end of
and
the
nobody preaches hard work, man. Like it's a lost art. Like I keep telling people, like, man, I made this happen out of being a home inspector. Nobody talks about home inspector being sexy, but like you gotta work hard. Everybody wants to be an investor to not work, but like you gotta work. And running a business is harder work than anybody can imagine, and that's why everybody doesn't make it. So head on straight and just work your ass off, man. That's it.
Yo, it's true, man. I had my own coming to Jesus with that. Like I had to have that conversation with myself where I was just like, yo, I was trying to be an investor so I didn't have to do work. I'm working way more than I ever worked in my entire freaking life.
That's my favorite line. People are like, man, I want to get that cash flow so I don't have to work. I'm like, good luck.
Yeah, I'm just like, yo, let me know when you figure it out. Like, come
Yeah,
find me.
yeah. I need that secret too.
Yeah, yeah, because you're right. It's a lot of work, and I'm glad you said that, man. Because this was something I even got like a lot of pushback from like my group with when I told them I was like, like the harder I work, the luckier I get. Like I was having them say that as an affirmation, and a
For
lot of
sure.
people were resistant to that. They were like, nah, man, like because you're trying to tell us like hard work doesn't equate like doing. I'm just like they wanted me just to say the smarter I work, and I'm like, I understand that too. Let's combine the two, the harder and smarter I work.
Once you mix those, you can literally not be stopped. I mean, look at my life, for example. My dad would never put the investing side to it, and you put the both together and it explodes, right? So you got to work smart, but if you work hard and smart, I mean, it goes up like that.
It's exponential all day long.
It's exponential.
Bro, I love that. So, I mean, yo, people have now been listening to us for about like 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
I already know they're just like, yo, this dude, Tommy, is freaking insane. Like, how do I get connected with him? How do I plug in? Matter of fact, like, there's some people like, yo, I'm in Ohio right now. How have I not heard of him? So, how can people connect with you? How can they plug in with you? Like, where should they go?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm starting to push IG a little bit more. So you can find me at Tommy Harr 0505. And basically gonna start pushing out some mostly content of how to be blue collar and also how to invest and just how do you live both lifestyles, right? So both mostly Instagram. Add me on Facebook, Tommy Harr. I love to connect with people on there. And then if you're in Columbus or anywhere else, we got people flying into our events nowadays. So pop into our Elevate events. They're usually the third Thursday of every month. We're gonna have some big time speakers at each. I think Donovan Ruffin might be flying up for the March one. My boy Austin Rutherford's probably coming back for that one too. So got some heavy hitters coming back to these events, and they're really fun. So come hang out, have some drinks, and come kick it with the Ohio boys.
Yo, I highly recommend y'all take them up on that. Like, go and have fun with them. Your whole
Everybody
crew
loves
is
the
a lot
Ohio
of fun,
boys, man.
bro. I swear the energy was just unreal. Where I was like,
Can't
yo,
beat it.
it can't be this much fun to like invest. And I'm like, yes, it can. You just gotta
And
do
in
it.
Columbus, Ohio, it's snowing out, and I mean, you gotta make your fun, man. I mean, if I'm not doing this shit, if I'm not having fun, like I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm gonna work hard and I'm gonna play hard. It is like if you're not doing like why not have fun with your life? Like that's what it's for, right?
Yo, I love it. I love it. Yo, so Tommy, I'm gonna make sure that they get like access to you like through IG, through Facebook. I'm gonna put a link below so that they can go. Guys, if you appreciated like just the conversation, the jewels he dropped, the fact that he shared his story, make sure you go sprinkle some sugar on the man. Go show him some love. Go on IG, go share this, right? Like tag him on IG, let him know that you listened to it, let him know that it affected you. Because here's the thing, we sometimes have no clue who is listening. I don't know, until like months later you reach out. So if you want to see him make more content, share his story more, go tag him in it, go DM him, tag me in it, make this, like, share it to a friend. If you think someone would be inspired by it, or if you know somebody in Ohio that you're like, yo, this person wants to get into real estate, they need to go connect with Tommy. They need to go connect with the Ohio boys. They need to go plug in and network and be around that campfire.
Absolutely, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, DM me. I like to give out free game. And we're buying deals all over Columbus. So send me a deal and let's kick it and let's have a good time. But man, I really appreciate your time. And I mean, this is amazing. First podcast, and it was fantastic. All I could ever ask for, man. You're the man.
Bro, I'm glad to have you. We're definitely going to have you come back on the show in the future.
No
Give
doubt.
us an update on what's going on. And I know for a fact, if I'm ever out in Columbus, I'm absolutely hitting you up, bro.
Pull up on me.
And like, yo, if you ever come out to AZ, man, like you got a spot to stay, bro.
I appreciate that, man. One of my Airbnbs always has an empty spot for anybody comes into town. It's all you, man. I appreciate your time.
Bro, appreciate you, man.